Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of What Is It Wednesday from the Barnes Museum in Southington, Connecticut. But today we are not at the Barnes Museum in Southington, Connecticut. We are on location, and if you look behind me, you will see Crescent Lake. We are over near Shuttle Meadow Road at a place I love. This is Bradley Mountain Farm. And as you can see, I have my mask on today because I have some very special guests with me from Bradley Mountain Farm. But before we meet the guests from 2020, I want us to imagine what life might have been like in Southington, Connecticut in the early 1800s. Remember, Southington was established in 1779, and the Barnes Museum was built by Amon Bradley, the patriarch of the Bradley Barnes family, in 1836. But before Bradley was an adult and an entrepreneur and a leader in Southington, Connecticut, he was a young boy who grew up on a farm, this farm that's now Bradley Mountain Soap and Bradley Mountain Farm. So again, before we go into what this farm is like now in 2020, let's use our imaginations, go back in time to the early 1800s, and I am going to flip this around and introduce you to somebody very special in Amon's life, his mother, Abigail Bradley. So again, we have our masks on today. In the 1800s, we would not have been wearing masks like this. If for whatever reason you have trouble hearing us, please let me know in the comments. I know that sometimes things get a little muffled with the masks, but we're being very safe today, and we'll be staying 6 feet apart and with our masks. But welcome back again in time. Let's go to the early 1800s and take it away, Miss Abigail Bradley. It's nice to meet you.
Honey, nice to meet you. I hear something's going around, so I'm sorry about my mask. I think it was cholera or something like that. What was the name?
It's called Corona today.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep my mask on. I hope you don't mind. I have my son Roswell here. He came from the farm down on Flanders Street. Come on over, Roswell. He's my second oldest son, so he might be helping us a little bit today. He's got his own farm now. He's grown with his own wife, but he's here for our farm tour.
So Abigail, your second son, Roswell, this is Amon's brother?
Yes, this is Amon's older brother. Amon actually, he was number 6 out of, he was actually number 8 in line, but he was my 6th son. I had a lot of boys. All the boys were born at home here in our birthing room that we still have. We converted it into a different room now. It's a pantry or a buttery. But, you know, they were all born in that room. 6 boys, they all tilled this farm for us. We're going to go inside. I'm going to show you a mural that we're actually, it's going to show you all the Bradley kids. So come on in, Bonnie.
You got it. We're hoping.
We're going in.
Thank you, Karen. We know it's a little muffled. We're hoping that once we get inside, it's going to be a little better.
I'm going to talk as loud as I can, Bonnie.
Thank you so much. And
this is the front area of our house. I'm going to come over here.
I'm going to sneak over 6 feet away
Thank
over
you.
here.
So we like to show our farm here, and we also like to show Southington. There's a mural here that shows what Southington looked like in 1813. We have the Jonathan Root Tavern. We had sheep in the center town hall. We have the Congregational Church here. Also some of the schools that were nearby. But up here we have our farm. Let me just come on up. You can see this. And we have, this is my husband Ichabod. We were childhood sweethearts. We lived right next door to each other. I love him so much. We were married for a long, long time. This is Ichabod and myself. This is my oldest daughter, Polly. Then we have Willis. Willis is out with the sheep. We have Hayel. We have William, Charles, Diademia, and Amon is my little boy. He's the youngest. So Amon is right here. Roswell, where are you? Roswell went to the War of 1812, and he stayed off, and he got his own farm, so Roswell's over here. Before Ichabod and I were little next-door sweethearts, Dan Bradley was actually, and that's his house right there, he settled in Southington. Dan actually started in New Haven, and then he helped Ichabod and I get this house started. His house is still here today on I was right next door to him on Andrew Street. So we met together, we fell in love. I was 19 years old, pregnant with Polly, and we got married, and then we got this farm going. So I'm going to show you another, oops, I got to get my little scarf on because I'm getting closer to Bonnie. We're going to go into what we call the coffin room.
We promised today there are no coffins in the coffin room.
There are no coffins in the coffin room, but we've had at least 10 funerals in this room. There were no undertakers at the time, so you actually buried your own, and that's our little coffin door. The coffins came in and out of that door. But I wanted to show you this picture. This here is Ichabod's dad. Ichabod's dad is Dan Bradley, and his mom is Sarah. So Dan and Sarah were from Southington. Unfortunately, Sarah died in childbirth, giving birth to Ichabod, and that's why he got his name Ichabod. But Sarah is actually the reason why we have the farm today. Her father, Benjamin Judd, was from Glastonbury, and when he died, he willed the whole farm to Ichabod and his brother. And at the time, they weren't even using the farm. It was just wild land, and they came and they tilled all of this, and they turned it into one of the most successful farms in Southington.
And I think that's very interesting for people to understand too. There's this coffin door right there.
Yep.
When we come to Crescent Lake now and we use the beautiful hiking trails, when you do, please stay 6 feet apart during social distancing. But there's some beautiful, beautiful trails. Today there are so many trees around Crescent Lake, and as the murals are depicting around the room, there were not trees here back then. It was all farming land. The trees had been used as timber for everything.
Right. Some of it went to England, right? A lot of the trees went down to New Haven, and they went to England on a boat. But also, we used the trees for our house. And if you walk Crescent Lake, you'll see a lot of the old stone walls that our family put in. That was to section off different areas for livestock, or when we had sheep, we had cows, we had oxen, we had all kinds of livestock, and those walls sectioned everyone off.
And Abigail, it's great to hear you talk about New Haven too, because at the Barnes Museum, where Amon built the house in 1836, we have those 52 family diaries, and they talk about still all throughout the 1800s going down to New Haven to visit family and friends. So it's great that there was still that connection all the way through from the beginning of the family.
Right, and that's Ichabod's side. Ichabod's side went all the way back to New Haven. Before New Haven, they were up in Massachusetts. They've been here a long time, since the 1600s. My side were the Moors, and we're just Southington natives. We were here all along, right on Andrew Street, and my dad was, my brother was a squire in town. My dad was a preacher, and a farmer. So we had deep roots in Southington, but Ichabod, his family was from New Haven, also a little bit of Glastonbury too, though, from his mother's side.
Outstanding.
So Bonnie, I just wanted to show you this fireplace. This one is lit, but this is one of our tea fireplaces. I'm going to put my mask up. This is a teeny fireplace. It actually, of course, it works. This is where we had our dinners. This was a family section of the house, and this is where we would have tea, and it was a little fireplace to keep things warm. So it was kind of a warming fireplace. Of course, we didn't have funerals every day here, so it was used for other reasons. I do want to show you one thing here. This is a willow tree, and all the Bradleys on our funeral lot had the willow tree on their gravestone, and that is a symbol for hope. And that was always done with our family.
And for those of you who joined me last week when we were at Oak Hill Cemetery, I was showing you the immediate family of Bradley Barnes. So we had Amon, Sylvia, Franklin, Alice, and Norman and Bradley, and their spouses there. But right next door to that is where your family, Abigail, is now laid to rest.
Right.
Now, originally they were laid to rest on this property. Is that true?
Yes, and they were laid on the property. There was no Oak Hill Cemetery at the time. There were no funeral undertakers or anything like that. We just buried our own. So until 1926, we were out, and our family was out and back. We had Charles out there. He died young, so he was out there. He died when he was 28, unfortunately. We had Willis was out there. Some of the wives were out there. There was Hayel actually had a baby that only lived a day. Sometimes babies died, so the little baby was out there. In the 1920s, when the Tuttles took over this property, all of us were moved over to Oak Hill Cemetery, next to Amon. We're near Amon.
We'll have to see. Maybe next week we'll go over for What Is It Wednesday and take a peek at the early years of the house's history.
Yes. You can also see, a lot of my children married prominent people in town, Harts, Andrews, and you can see them there too. The only one of my children that isn't in Oak Hill is Polly. Polly moved up to Granville, Massachusetts, and she's married there now. She married, Andrews Street, Benjamin Andrews from Andrews Street. Polly ended up marrying an Andrews. But there's also some Harts that we married and the Newells that we married too.
Oh, wonderful.
Bonnie, this is my little fire that we're getting going. We do have people that help us with the fires. We have some workers here as well. But this fire is a Rumford fire. It's meant for heat and cooking. And all day long we would have this fire going along with a little bit of steam from the cooking stove, from the actual pots. We would have, of course, we go back to England, so we have tea, we have coffee, and then also we have a nice oven here where we can keep our baked goods warm for the day. At the end of the day, we would take the embers from the fire and bring them upstairs to the fireplaces upstairs so they would warm the room. But the fires are mostly my job, along with the people that work for me. I have Emily that works for us, but also my daughter Diademia. And Polly, before she got married, she would help me too. So fires are my job, animals are my job, and then Ichabod and the boys, they're out doing the actual farming part of the job. But this is my little place where I stay most of the day.
Absolutely amazing. Well, Abigail, thank you for visiting with us today, but what I'd really like to know is who you are in 2020, because this is an amazing story, folks. Let's go forward in time. Let's bring us to 2020, and absolutely, please introduce yourself and what you do, because this is amazing.
Thank you, Bonnie. So I'm Annalise Dadris, and Rosewell, i.e. Kean, you can come over. This is my son, Kean. We restored the Bradley house. It was about a 2-year project, starting from the ground up. Our vision was to make this back into a farm, back into a beautiful house. It's one of the cornerstones of Southington. We love this place. We love to share it with people, and it was a privilege to be able to be with you guys today to share. We also have soap that we make from our goats, and we have soap deliveries on Sunday if you'd like to order some soaps off of our website. We also have fresh eggs from our chickens, and Bradley Mountain Farm t-shirts. So even though we're not open all the way, normally we have goat yoga, goats in pajama parties, birthday parties. We would love to see you, and if you order, we'd love to see you on Sundays.
What's your website?
Our website is bradleymountainfarm.com. You can go there and see all the things that we have to offer, and you can also go to our shop and order some of our soaps, and we'll have it all ready for you Sundays.
Now, what I'd like, just to go back to the renovation that both of you did, we've walked through 3 of the downstairs rooms right now.
Yes.
And this house, just like the Barnes Museum, went through many renovations. It actually started off as a 1-room house.
Yes.
And part of the painstaking renovation of this house, all the woodwork that you are seeing is 100% original in this home. And then the murals were specifically done. What was the artist's name?
Her name is Susan Leach. She's
Beautiful.
A historical muralist, and pretty much follows the job that used to happen where the muralist would go to the tavern, like the Jonathan Root Tavern downtown Southington, and advertise that for $2 a day, they would paint one of your walls. So Susan goes to Williamsburg and Deerfield and all different places and helps restore colonial murals.
And I think one of the last things that I want to show people is I got the privilege this morning of watching this fire come to life. And but this fireplace, when Annalise gave me an original tour of the home, when they were repainting, I would love for you to say the words that we're seeing, the words and the numbers behind you.
I love this, actually.
This is a great story to finish us off today.
So when we were first discovering this fireplace, we noticed some ridges. This was all white at the time, and we noticed some ridges in the fireplace, and we realized that there were actually letters. And I originally thought that this B was Bradley, and so I figured, oh, this is going to be a Bradley insignia. We had an artist come out and trace the lettering, and it's actually in Old English, B-I-C. And I could not figure out where the C came from. When we did some research, we realized that B-I-C is Latin for Vivos in Christos, which is may you always live in Christ, and with the date that the new house was made. So I think it's really interesting and humble that Ichabod's legacy is not putting Bradley on his main fireplace. It's actually asking you, please, follow our way, live in Christ. And this is actually the Farmington church where they went to. And there was a Bible saying that said, when you live in Christ, your life is like a harvest. And so the mural is about the harvest. So I just think it's really telling, even though it's back to the 1800s, that, this was their legacy. This is what they wanted us to remember them by. Not necessarily remember my name, remember I was here. It was remember how we lived.
And I think that translates completely through to how all of the Bradleys through time, ending with Bradley Barnes, lived his life, donating his fortunes away, to be able to preserve history like this and even have a mural above the fireplace that's Farmington Church. Again, this is the roots of Southington, folks. We started as south of Farmington, and right here above a fireplace, we have a beautiful tribute to that we are all connected. So near or far, even if you are not from Southington, we hope that you get to come visit the Barnes Museum and Bradley Mountain Farm once we reopen back to the public again. There is so much history in New England, not just the rich history of the Barnes Museum and the Bradley family, but all over. And the fact that we can be interconnected in many ways during this time and learn our histories, I think it's just great. So to both of you, thank you so much. We look forward to visiting you again. Folks, check out Bradley Mountain Farm and check out the Barnes Museum and all our virtual programming as well. And keep loving history.
Yes, and Bonnie, we're going to offer you some coffee from the fire.
Ooh, I'm going to love some coffee from the fire. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.